Most hockey players deal with this annoying pinch in the front of their hip when they squat, skate, or get low in their stance. And the typical solution is to try a bunch of random stretches, hoping something works. But a hip pinch isn't usually just a tight hip. It's usually the hip bone and the pelvis not moving together the way they should. And if the hip can't rotate properly while you move into deeper flexion, that's when the joint starts to feel jammed. So this drill helps restore the rotation space that your hip needs to move cleanly again. Here's what's really happening. As we get low into our hockey stance or load into a stride, your hip moves into flexion. But flexion isn't just lifting the knee. For the hip bone to move deeper into the hip socket, it also needs to rotate in the inside of the hip joint. This is called internal rotation. And if your hip can't internally rotate enough, your body still needs to get lower. So instead of rotating the hip bone in the inside of the hip socket, the pelvis starts to tilt forwards. As your center of mass shifts forwards, the front of the hip compresses and the hip joint loses space. That's where the pinch happens. For hockey players, this is a constant problem when skating, since skating is basically single leg flexion and rotation. So this drill teaches us how the hip should move properly within the hip socket, which restores joint space and makes the hip move smoothly. Here's how to do the exercise. Start in a half knee position next to the wall. Your back knee should be directly underneath your hip. The front foot is flat against the ground, with the front knee roughly around 90 degrees. Now place a foam roller between the inside of your knee and the wall. The foam roller should fit tight against the knee, not the thigh, not the shin, but against the knee joint. Next, make sure you have 3 points of contact with your front foot being your heel, your big toe, and your pinky toe. Gently press your knee into the foam roller, giving a 2 out of 10 pressure. Focus on your breathing. Take a deep inhale through your nose, expanding your stomach, making sure your ribs are still stacking over your pelvis. And as we exhale, we're going to push air through our mouth and make sure that our ribs are going to slowly descend down towards our pelvis. Stay in this position for 30 seconds. And if you further want to replicate a hockey stride, you want to make sure that you're reaching out in front of you with the opposite arm. This will rotate your upper torso. You can further make this exercise harder by elevating that back knee off the ground. Maintaining this pressure shows you what a low stance stride in a low stance position would look like on the ice.